and welcome to another video. So today is my February reading wrap up, and rather like January, I haven't managed to finish that many books. But with January being as unimpressive as it was, the fact that I've managed to finish 4 books this month means I've actually doubled what I managed to read in a month this month. I should also confess that 2 of the books that I finished were almost complete by the end of January, but I didn't actually have them completely done. So I'd mentioned them in my January wrap up, but yeah. So they were technically finished in February, but most of the hard labour was done. One of the other books that I finished this month was a poetry collection, which took me about 45 minutes to read. So make of that what you will. And the last was an audiobook. Still not the most impressive numbers, I must admit, but like I say, definitely better than the month before. February was also the month where I started a ton of books. So I also started 4 books this month, but didn't get round to finishing any of those either. So I'm varying way through another 4 books. So yeah, bit of a messy month, but I'm going to take you through the books that I did manage to complete this month, and then the books that I am continuing on reading into March. So the first book that I managed to finish this month, I'll pop a picture up on the screen here, was The Idiot Brain by Dean Burnett. And as I said, I started reading this one as an audiobook in January, and it was a really interesting read. So this is a non-fiction book about what your brain's really getting up to on its day-to-day activities. A lot of the things you take for granted, your thought processes, the way you remember things, the way you form opinions, all these kinds of things. And it was a really interesting read. I would highly recommend. I rated this one a 4-star, using kind of my version of Cawpile for nonfiction. I used G from Book Roast's Cawpile spreadsheet for my fiction books, and I've kind of tweaked it slightly for non-fiction, just changing the aspects I'm sort of grading them on. So this came out as a 4-star, and I think that's pretty fair. It was really informative, and I liked the delivery. The narration was good as well, as it was coming from an audiobook. It was good narration, and I found it really engaging and interesting. So I would definitely recommend this one if you're interested in basically what the brain gets up to kind of behind the scenes, the less sort of flashy things going on. Yeah, I found this highly interesting, so I would definitely recommend this one. Another non-fiction read I got through in February. I'm definitely in my non-fiction mood just now, and listening to them as audiobooks definitely helps. You can just sink in and let the words kind of flow over, and it's a great way to read non-fiction if it's something you struggle to do. I would highly recommend giving audiobooks a try. I can consume a lot more non-fiction this way. So the book I was talking about is Inferior by Angela Saini. This is How Science Got Women Wrong. And it's a really interesting topic. Basically looking at how women have obviously been sort of second-class citizens, during a lot of sort of human development, kind of the cultural norms and things like that. And she goes back and looking into literally the development of the human species as we know it, in comparison to the great apes, and basically looking at the different cultures and the way women fit in different cultures and what is expected of them and what they do, and showing that, women are not inferior, because this is obviously a very strongly held belief for a long time. Even Charles Darwin, who was obviously the evolutionary biologist of his age, believed that women were inferior, and in fact the only good things that they could have developed was them getting them from male genes. So they were in a sense stealing those skills from men genetically. He believed that women were inferior, which given the fact that he was a Victorian scientist, it's not that hard to believe. But even still, having that presented to me, I was like, oh my god. I still find that kind of shocking to hear. Obviously that's something that most people study in school, and yeah, his opinions on things like that, it's definitely not something that I was ever taught about. But yeah, a really interesting read, and if you're interested in sort of feminist literature, it's one I would recommend. I'm also interested in reading another one. I forget the author, but I'm sure it's called Invisible Women or something like that. And I think it's along the similar lines of how science has kind of forgotten women over the years, and things have often been based on men. Other things in this book, you know, can relate to like the drug market and sort of different cycles and things like that, and how it's all of this information's been based off of studying men and not studying men and women, and how that just doesn't really make sense when there are some differences. Women have not been properly taken into account. So yeah, fascinating read. Again, I gave this a 4-star. I thought the delivery, again, was very, very well done. It was very clear. The author got you passionate about the topic, or did me anyway. Really, really enjoyed it. Definitely very informative. And I'm going to keep reading things along those lines, because I really, really enjoyed learning all the things that I did from this book. So, like I said, I gave it a 4-star. And again, I would highly recommend this if you're looking for some non-fiction to get stuck into. The other books that I finished this month was actually a reread for me, the first reread I did of 2021. There's a few I'm hoping to get to this year. And it was this. This is Poems for the End of the World by Katie Wismar. I read this in December and it is February and I've read it again. So this book I absolutely adore. It is a collection of poetry kind of based on growing pains and relationships and sort of self-discovery and illness and new beginnings, and it's just got so much good stuff in it. I read this, I had a Kindle edition of this book in December, and I loved it so much that I just had to have a paper copy. So my lovely paper copy. Oh, look at it. Isn't it gorgeous? And it's got one of the poems on the back, which I absolutely adore. And it is, it's a very short poem. If you are underwhelmed by me, please just let me go. And it's short, it's powerful, speaks to me. I adore this poetry collection and I will probably reread it many times. But now I have a lovely paper copy to add to my shelves, so that's fantastic. But yeah, this is 5-star for me. I'm going to pop it up here. Yeah, a 5-star book from me. I absolutely love it. There's something really powerful about finding a collection of poetry that really speaks to you, and this one definitely speaks to me. So give this one a go. The last book that I managed to finish completely in February was another one that I started in January. This is Of Wicked Blood by Katie Hayos and Olivia Wildenstein. This book is fantastic. This was a 5-star read for me as well. I really, really enjoyed this book. I got this as an ARC from NetGalley and enjoyed it so much that I have pre-ordered the hardback edition because I want to have it on my shelves. So even though I've read it, I'm buying the hardback because I adore it, and I plan on continuing the series. It'll be next year when the sequel of Tainted Heart comes out, and I'm excited for it already. So rambling on here, I haven't even told you what the book's about yet. So Of Wicked Blood follows Cadence and Slate, and it's a young adult fantasy series. I think there's going to be 4 books, possibly, not 100% sure. So this is the first one, and the series is the Quatrefoil Chronicles. I've probably said that wrong. So you have the main characters of Slate and Cadence. Slate, he's been through the foster care system, and he ends up finding out that he has some money in trust, and he has to go to this town of Broome in France. It's all set in France, and he has to go to the town of Broome and meet with this with this professor and to discuss organising getting the money from this what has been laid aside from him for his parents. And he had no clue that his parents left him any money or anything like that. He had no idea about his past. So he's really intrigued, but also like he's bitter about it as well. So he kind of just wants to go and get what he can get out of the situation and then just leave. So Slate journeys to Broome to get a hold of the money that he is told is due him, and ends up getting embroiled in a bit of a mess. So he decides it's a great idea to essentially loot a crypt and finds this ring. He decides to pop that on his finger and steals a bunch of other jewels from this family crypt. And yeah, that turns out to be a bit of a bad decision. And the ring is cursed, and now so is Slate. And he's in a bit of bother because he now has to go and ask for help on how to remove this ring. And he turns out there's going to be a bit of a quest, and 4 tasks have to be successfully completed to release Slate from this ring. And if he doesn't get the ring off within a couple of weeks, it will kill him. So yeah, stakes get high pretty quickly for a Slate. Cadence de Morel is the love interest, and she also ends up getting mixed up in this quest. And their friendship, relationship, banter is very amusing. They kind of detest each other a little bit, but can't help but like each other. They're very different. Slate very much does what he wants. He's not, behaving for anybody. He's just living his life because he's had a bit of a crappy time of it. Like I say, going through the foster system. And Cadence has had a lovely upbringing in a big house and lots of opportunities, and she's had a very different upbringing. So they're very, very different people, but they end up becoming good friends through a few hurdles. And it's nice to see their relationship develop. It's really, really good. This book, I can't rave enough about. It's such a good first book in a series. Like, this is a series that I am very excited about, and haven't been so excited about a new series in ages. And it was just great. The setting was so atmospheric. You just felt like you were in Broome. It was very magical. It was just cute and cozy, and I wanted to go there. I loved it so much. I've never really been affected by the atmosphere in a book as much as I was this one. I really, really enjoyed it. And the characters were great. Obviously, Cadence and Slate were really, really funny. I would have said the humour was very Buffy-esque, kind of sarcastic, kind of funny, witty humour. Really enjoyed it. The cast of characters were great. You kind of got to know like a nice little range of characters, and some of them that you loved and some of them that you wanted to strangle. But it was a very compelling book to read, and I really enjoyed it. The plot line involving the tasks that Slate has to try and complete to be rid of this curse were really good, really interesting. Each one was very different. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Everything was so seamless, like the plot and the characters and the humor, and it just all worked for me so much. So if you read any book from this list, definitely give Of Wicked Blood a go. It is such a good read. And like I say, I can't wait to continue on with the series, and also have a hard copy for my bookshelves. I've recently started adding new books to the shelves again. I've been buying a lot on my Kindle lately, and I've decided I'm going to start buying more paper copies again, and it's just getting me a bit more excited about reading again, to actually have the physical book in front of me. So yeah, I'm definitely adding some more to the shelves. Although, as Ewan pointed out to me, that's my fiance, if you're new here, he's like, your shelves are pretty full, so where are you putting all these new books? And I'm like, well, I do need to do a book unhaul. Although I'm not very good at unhauls, but we're gonna try. So that video will be coming soon when I get around to doing it, but it's a big job. There are hundreds of books on these shelves. You can see all the ones at the front, but they're actually double. So all the books you see here, there's actually another layer of books behind every single one. And yeah, there's a lot of books here. So I am going to be going through them at some point. What is it Marie Kondo says? If it doesn't spark joy, get rid of it. So we'll be seeing what sparks joy here fairly soon. So as to finish, this is a great book. Definitely give this one a go. if you're looking for a fun new YA fantasy series. I love it. So like I said, February was the month of starting a bunch of new books and not actually finishing a hell of a lot. So one of the new additions that I bought and I've subsequently started to read is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. At this point, I'm so late to the game that I don't think anyone actually needs an explanation of what this book is. So for those that don't know, although I can't imagine there aren't many, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It follows Harper and Wren. Wren being the prince who is cursed, and Harper being the woman that is, I assume, going to help break said curse. So yeah, so this is what I've been reading for the last little while. Ewan got me this for my birthday. So yeah, I've been reading this and loving it so far. It's kind of got me excited about reading new books again, to be honest. Another book that I have been reading this month, and I'm about 60 or so % of the way through, is The Coven by Lizzie Fry. This is an ARC that I got from NetGalley, and it came out, I believe, on the 26th of February. That could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's around that date that it came out. And I was hoping to have it finished by the end of February, for obvious reasons. But I'm not quite finished yet. This book follows a conflict between witches and non-witches, basically. So you have 3 different types of witches. There are kitchen witches, crystal witches, and elemental witches, and their names kind of relate to the kind of power level and how they access their power, kind of a thing. And the government has decided that witchcraft is immoral, illegal, and is wanting to squash it out. The viewpoint is kind of Puritan. I think they're like the new Puritans. So it's very Salem witch trials-y kind of thing. So they're trying to round up the witches. Some are being killed, some are being converted, whatever. They're just wanting to get rid of what they call the witch threat. So it's not a very, very nice time. All witches are female, but not all females are witches, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of suspicion surrounding women if they might be secretly witches. So people are like not trusting, can be not trusting of their friends and family. There are situations where husbands turn on their wives if they find out that they might be witches or they are witches. So it's not a very nice time to be a woman in this novel. The concept for me is really, really interesting. Women are literally going back to being second-class citizens. They're basically the goodies are, in the home, raising the kids, supporting their men. And the witches are being squashed down, and the men are all in power and having far too much say in everything. And there's an organization called the Sentinel, and they're basically like a police trying to round up these witches and take them away to they're called the Angel Caves, but they're basically like concentration camps for witches. Or there's kill orders out on the most powerful elementals. It's really, really interesting. So you're following a witch who's escaped from an angel cave, and you're following a young witch who just found out she's a witch, and that's not been a very good process for her, and they're kind of seeking help to find safety with a coven. And yeah, it's a really, really interesting concept. I'm enjoying the book a lot, but it's the characters are definitely not pulling me in very much. I'm not finished yet, so I don't know what my final thoughts of the book are going to be, but at the moment, plot, interesting, characters, the weaker part of it, just because I don't really feel attached to anybody yet. And like I say, I'm about 60% of the way through, and I don't really like anybody that much. I don't really dislike anybody, but apart from the obvious Sentinel horrible people, but of the main characters, I'm not really connected to anyone. So it's probably going to be more of is the plot good enough to outweigh that, basically. So it's going to be how I'm going to form my opinion. But it is an interesting book. It's taken me quite a while to read. It's one of those books that I really, really enjoy when I'm reading it, but when I put it down, I don't have the same pull to go pick it up again. But then when I pick it up, I fly through a bunch of pages and then put it down, and then it just stays down for a few days. So anyway, It's mixed feelings at the minute, but I am enjoying the concept, so I will let you know in next month's wrap up my final thoughts on that one. Next book that I started this month and haven't finished, I haven't actually got very far through it, is The Wicked King by Holly Black. This is my tackle, my TBR book for the month, and obviously it's a bit of a bummer I haven't finished it yet, but I have started it and I will finish it. So this is the second book in the Cruel Prince series. I really enjoyed the first one. I think I gave it a 4 star, so I was quite keen to get into the second one, but as all the kind of books on my Tackle My TBR challenge, it was basically, it got bought, ready to read, and I never got around to it, and it's been like a year. So just diving back in with book number 2, and again, I will let you know at the end of the month what my thoughts are on that one. Can't give too much information away because obviously it's the second book in a series, although I think quite a lot of people on BookTube have already read this series. Again, very late to the game, but I will let you know how I feel at the end of March when I finish this one. And last of all, I started another non-fiction book. Like I said, non-fiction seems to be my jam right now. This is Hard Pushed by Leah Hazard, and it's essentially This Is Gonna Hurt by Adam Kay. It's another book I've read, really enjoyed it. That was the experiences of an obs and gynae doctor throughout his training and his working career. And this is the same kind of idea, but from a midwife. I'm really, really enjoying it. It's a really good book so far. I'm really enjoying listening to the experiences of the midwife, learning about her training and some of the patients she's come across during her career. I think I have about 3 hours left of this book. It's not a long one. I think it's about 8.5 hour audiobook, and I'm pretty sure I've only got about 3 hours left, but I'm really, really enjoying this one so far. I'm planning on kind of compiling a list of like my favourite medical non-fiction type books, and I think this one's probably going to make the cut for that. Spoiler for that video if I ever get around to filming it. Really, really enjoying it, and the author is narrating it and she's doing a great job, so enjoying this one so far. So that is all the books that I have finished and are in the middle of this month. So obviously if I'd gotten my act together and actually finished the ones I'm still reading, I would have had a good solid 8 books, but not quite there. But still, the books that I finished were 4 and 5 stars. That's 2 4s and 2 5s. I can't fault the quality of the books that I have finished this month, and I'm really enjoying most of the ones that I'm reading. So yeah, I'm quite happy actually to say that like I say, it's more quality that I'm reading than quantity. Whereas at the end of last year, I was definitely feeling that I was flying through books, but a lot of them were in the 2-3 star category, and I wasn't really loving what I was reading overall. So I mentioned in a video, I think it was the start of this year, I will link it up above wherever it goes, and it was reading habits that I want to change this year or something along those lines, but which I can't remember the title of my own video. And in that video I mentioned that I was feeling like it was very much quantity over quality, and I wanted to make some changes to improve my reading, and I toyed with the idea of getting rid of TBRs, but I was going to carry them on for the first couple of months of the year to see how I felt, because I was beginning to feel a bit restricted by the TBRs I was setting myself. So I would obviously set the TBRs based on the books I was excited to read at the end of the month and for the next coming month. And then I'd read one of them, and then I would inevitably find something else that I wanted to read. But then I was like, well, that's not my TBR, and I already have like 10 books on my TBR, and I should read one of those really to stick to my TBR. I'm one of these people that I don't like creating TBRs and not sticking to them. And for the first 2 months of this year, that's kind of what I've done. I've made TBRs and maybe read 1 or 2 books off of them. You know, I've not really read a great volume of books this year, but there's a lot of books sitting on these past 2 TBRs that I've not gone anywhere near, despite the fact that I'm interested in reading them. And it kind of got to the point that I'm like, because I didn't want to actually read anything on my TBR, but I was feeling too guilty about picking a book that wasn't on my TBR, I ended up not reading, which is stupid. So I've decided for the next couple of months to ditch TBRs and just pick up whatever I fancy picking up. And I feel like I'm going to enjoy that more. I'm feeling too restricted by TBRs at the minute, so I'm going to just get rid of them. Why stick to something that's not working? I can always bring it back if I decide I want to. But at the minute, I just don't feel like I'm gaining anything from TBRs except feeling caged in by them. Just, you know, going with the cage theme. Yeah, so they are not happening. So there will not be a TBR video for March. My next video will be a book haul, because as I said, I've been buying a bunch of books. So I will show you the books that I've been buying, a couple of books that I got for my birthday that was recently. I have a vlog where I technically turned 30, although I didn't film that much on that day. Again, I can link that up there if you're interested. And then I will pick my next book from my Tackle My TBR challenge, where every month I pick a book from my little dear jar there. Every month I'm picking a new prompt to pick a book that is on my TBR that I just like, as my never ending TBR, that I haven't got to for whatever reason. So I'm going to pick another one of those books in my next video, which will be a book haul. And that's the only book I'm going to set myself to read this month. And then the rest of the books are just going to be whatever I fancy picking up when I'm ready to go. And not being restricted by TBRs. Because like I say, they're just not working for me right now. So yeah, so that is my wrap up for February. Not the most impressive, but equally, I'm kind of enjoying taking a more chill attitude to my reading. I'm not pushing myself to read what I don't want to read, and I feel like I'm freeing myself up for a really good March ahead by just allowing myself to flutter around and pick up whatever I want instead of being so strict about it. So that is today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found a couple of books you might like to pick up at some point. Let me know what you're planning on reading for March. I'd love to hear from you. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you think. And I will catch you in another video very soon. Bye.